We're in the heart of rural Tuscany for a spectacular show at one of the world's most spectacular racetracks. It's the Brembo Grand Prix of Italy, and we're at the jaw-dropping Mugello track, renowned for its unique beauty and unique challenge. The world's best riders go for gold next in the Tissot Sprint. It's time for MotoGP. So the Mugello circuit, 5.245 kilometres, just under 3.3 miles. It's long, it's fast, it's challenging. 15 corners, 6 of them left, 9 of them right. And they'll potentially be powering down the start-finish rate at 1.14 kilometres. Maybe an all-time lap record top speed beckoning in the 11-lap sprint coming up shortly. Down on the hard brakes into San Donato, the first corner. Good overtaking, hot spot there with some slipstream. That first sector completed by Luco and Poggio Secco. Into 6 and 7, the Casanova Savelli section, through then Arrabbiata 1 and 2. One of several breathtaking sections around this Mugello circuit. 1, 4 and 15 are the harshest on the brakes. Good overtaking opportunities presented there as well. And hard on that front end at 370 kilometres an hour is the high tyre stress zone into San Donato. Overtaking hot spots, well, there are plenty of them, aren't there? Turns 1, turn 4, turn 5, turn 6, turn 14, 15, take your pick. This was Alex Marquez through the eye of a needle on the inside of brother Mark into San Donato last year. Last time out at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. It was Pecco Bagnaia looking to bounce back after his last lap disaster in the Tissot Sprint. He led the way after an early charge from Jorge Martin and Pedro Acosta in front of their home crowd. It had to be, having crashed on the last lap of the sprint at turn 5. It was turn 5 where Bagnaia picked his moment to take his 21st MotoGP victory. It means he comes onto home soil in front of the passionate and partisan home crowd here, in front of the legions of red-clad Ducati fans, 39 points adrift of series leader Jorge Martin, who has already enjoyed a very happy Saturday so far in the Tuscany sunshine. Sweet 16 for Martin, 16th MotoGP pole position, after a record-breaking lap time from the Prima Pramac racing star. A new all-time lap record of a 1:44.504 has put Martin top of qualifying, right in his slipstream, right in his coattails. Here's Pecco Bagnaia, the reigning world champion. He gets a great reception coming to the back of the factory Ducati garage. Just a reminder though, Bagnaia will start the 11-lap sprint in about 20 minutes time here in Mugello from that second place on the grid. But the aftermath of a controversial incident with Alex Marquez at the end of practice yesterday afternoon on the brakes into Correntallo, the F1 MotoGP stewards are judging that the world champion did in fact impede Alex Marquez when the Spaniard was on a hot lap at the end of that practice session. So for tomorrow's full-length 23-lap Brembo Grand Prix of Italy, Bagnaia will start from the position 5 with a 3-place grid penalty. That is why it's called Majestic Mugello. That is why it's called Magnificent Mugello. Is there a better place than Mugello on a beautiful early summer Saturday for Grand Prix motorcycle racing? We think not. Let's hope we are set for more incredible drama. 7 days after an unbelievable Tissot sprint in Catalunya, and, well, a rider who used to make this Mugello track his own. 9 times a winner. Just listen to the reception the 9 times world champion Valentino Rossi gets. The doctor is back in the house. The fans on their feet, young and old, giving a rapturous reception and a great ovation to Valentino Rossi, who will be a little bit unhappy to see both of his riders on the Pertamina Enduro VR46 racing Ducatis. Fabio Di Gianantonio, 14th on the grid. Marco Bezzecchi, 2 places further back in 16th spot. Glorious sunshine ahead of what we hope is going to be a glorious battle for the gold medal. 7 days ago, 5 riders led the sprint. 3 of them crashed out of the lead, including Raul Fernandez, Brad Binder and Pecco Bagnaia, and they're all chasing the World Championship leader, not just in the standings, but in this 11-lap sprint coming up shortly as Jorge Martin goes from pole position. It's Matt Burt, Lewis Sutterby in the commentary box as always, with Simon Crafar soaking up some of this beautiful sunshine here in Tuscany, down on the grid and in pit lane. Lewis, well, as is ever in Mugello, the pit lane awash with MotoGP legends. We've seen 9-time world champion Valentino Rossi. Now we get to see one of the best to ever do it, 15-time world champion Giacomo Agostini, enjoying all the atmosphere and the build-up to this sprint. But Jorge Martin, once again, Lewis, you feel with another statement performance here in Ducati's home Grand Prix, running an hour's drive away from the HQ in Borgo Panigale on the outskirts of Bologna. And again, another record-breaking pole. Jorge Martin, another clear message: ignore me at your peril in terms of the factory seat next year. Yeah, both Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia have been in the headlines this weekend, but for very, very different reasons. A third pole of 2024 for the Martinator, and this is really his domain. He really does own Super Saturdays in 2024. To tell you that the 4th place in the sprint in Barcelona was a severe blip by his very high Saturday standards tells you how good he usually is in these sprints. And of course, with Bagnaia not taking his grid penalty until tomorrow's full-length Italian Grand Prix and starting from 2nd this afternoon, Jorge Martin would dearly love to beat the reigning world champion in front of his home crowd. It was a proper rare occurrence, wasn't it, in the sprint last weekend? As Lewis mentioned, Martin off the podium for the first time since the Catalunya round in 2023. The only rider to have led a lap in all 6 rounds so far, 9 podiums in 12. He hasn't finished lower than 4th, 24 points better off after 6 Grand Prix than Pecco Bagnaia was at this very stage of the season last year. Bagnaia came to round 7, 131 points, 155 already amassed by Martin. Shows what an incredible start he's had to 2024. So great to see Valentino Rossi here. Of course, no question where his allegiances lie in this weekend's action here in Mugello. Although, as you mentioned, Lewis, a bit of a frustrating Saturday morning for Rossi's boys. The Gian Antonio, to be fair to Fabio, he was actually on a very good lap when the yellow flags came out for a late incident involving Marc Marquez crashing at in Q1 rather. The late yellow flags cost the Gian Antonio, but he probably was going to go through in that second qualifying session. They got worked, haven't they? The Digia 14th, best 16th on the grid. Equal worst qualifying of the year for both VR46 riders, and Saturdays have not been particularly profitable for them this season. They've only recently just registered their first sprint points of the season. Expect more from them in the longer race tomorrow, you suspect. So Valentino Rossi might be looking elsewhere in the academy for success today, as a very familiar face, although we're currently looking at the pack of Paolo Gibatti back in the paddock, of course. If this was still his role that he enjoyed last season, he might be the one having to have some very difficult discussions with all sorts of Ducati riders and Ducati personnel. I think Paolo Gibatti very happy that that's no longer his decision. Yeah, he'll be able to relax here in Mugello, not part of all these behind-the-scenes intense discussions that roll on, and they will rage on maybe for a good few days more as we try and await for D-Day, Ducati's decision on whether it's Martin or Marquez that will get the factory seat. The Italian media pre-weekend here in Mugello were supremely confident that it was Martin that had won that particular battle, but not a given. All kinds of rumours swirling around Mugello about what Marquez is up to in 2025. Where will Martin be? Maverick Vinales is another high-profile rider who has not yet committed to his 2025 plans and beyond. The good news for Aprilia, the good news for Maverick Vinales, he's righted the wrongs of a dreadful weekend in Barcelona last time out, where he was all at sea. No grip whatsoever on the RSGP in the sprint and Grand Prix in Catalunya. On the front row for the 4th time in 7 Grand Prix. 75th career front row start for the 29-year-old Spanish rider, who will be trying to get his nose in the fight with the 2 top riders in the championship, Martin and Bagnaia. Got his tactics spot on in qualifying earlier on today and was rewarded with a place on the front row. Well, Pedro Acosta, of course, has been in the news throughout his rookie season as he continues to just win fans, win admirers, silence any critics that he had with every single time he steps on board that KTM. He will be in factory KTM orange, though, next season, confirmed shortly after qualifying completed
earlier on today, a qualifying session that Pedro Acosta could only manage 7th in, and I say only 7th because I think he probably had expectations slightly higher than that. It's a measure of how highly all of us think of Pedro Acosta, that from the moment he was signed up as a MotoGP rider midway through last year to make his debut this year, I think many already were asking the question, how soon will he be in factory KTM orange? We now have our answer.
Who saw that coming? Shock horror. Pedro Acosta earning his spurs in the factory KTM team in 2025. Of course, the pressure, even pre-season, was firmly on the shoulders of Australian Jack Miller. All eyes on the 29-year-old trying to keep his seat in the factory KTM squad. Not helped by the words from his Grand Prix career at the moment. The Aussie DNF's in 3 in a row, scored just 11 points in the last 4 rounds. And talk about kicking him while he's down. 19th on the grid for Miller. His lowest grid position, his lowest qualifying result since the Red Bull Ring in 2017, 7 long years ago. Miller maybe has a chance to stay with the Pierre Mobility Group next year. Maybe an option to swap seats with Acosta at Red Bull Gas Tech 3. Well, after another show-stopping lap time this morning, trying to increase that 39-point lead in the World Championship. Brilliant performance by Jorge Martin on pole. Not a bad job as well by his teammate Frankie Morbidelli, who was fastest in Q1. He goes from 6th place on the grid. Let's get some thoughts from their boss, Gino Borsoy, who's beside him.
He is. Gino, I'll be honest, I was worried in the practice this morning watching Jorge. Looked like you were having some troubles. He didn't seem his confident self, but then he went out in time attack mode and bang, it was impressive. Please tell us what's happening, what you expect from the sprint.
Yeah, for sure, it was a brilliant pole position this morning, new record, but as you said, we were in trouble in the FP3 this morning, especially in the long run, so we had some issue that we think we fixed during the day, but let's see. We've been not easy, especially they have to manage the front tire. Normally it's opposite, they have to manage the rear, but here is the front, so I think we have more or less everything under control, but today could be an interesting race for us to understand better for tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, good luck.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Gino Borsoy. Yeah, Jorge Martin, after a relatively difficult Friday for the Martinez, 5th yesterday morning, 7th yesterday, only 15th on the standings this morning. Didn't really suggest he was going to be in the fight for pole position in Q2, but that's exactly where he finds himself. And Frankie Morbidelli, just a reference to the 29-year-old Italian, big home round for Frankie. Best qualifying in 25 Grand Prix since he started 4th in Argentina right at the start of the 2023 World Championship.
Yeah, well, the qualifying hasn't really been Frankie Morbidelli's problem so far. For the 5th consecutive Grand Prix, he took part in qualifying 2, although he had to go through qualifying 1 to do it. And as always, there were no shortage of high-profile opposition in qualifying 1 this morning. But Frankie Morbidelli was the fastest of all in that session. Of course, he's got a 4th place already in the sprint so far this year, although that was in a very unconventional sprint back at Jerez at the end of April. Frankie Morbidelli can hang around with the high-profile names up against him and up ahead of him, then he'll be certainly very pleased with that. A top 6 surely the aim for Morbidelli this afternoon.
We just saw a glimpse of Marc Marquez coming to the grid. Looked like he was going to be certainly in that fight for pole position when on his last lap he was up by over a quarter of a second through the first 2 sectors before he crashed, losing the front down the hill into Scarperia, turn 10. Marquez, though, not too much damage to his prospects of yet another sprint podium. He goes from 4th place on the grid. Great job, though, by Maverick Viñales, the standout rider so far this weekend on home soil for Aprilia Racing. He's on the front row of the grid. Aleix Espargo trying for back-to-back sprint wins in 2024. He goes from 9th. Let's get some thoughts from Aprilia boss Paolo Bonora.
Paolo, watching Maverick on your machine this morning looked fantastic. Well, in qualifying, unreal how he put the lap together. The bike looks like working really well through the fast corners. What do you expect for the sprint today?
Yeah, for sure we achieved the goal. As I said in during yesterday, our goal was to start in the first rows, and he did it for sure. Despite of the last exit when he lose the rear a little bit, but he did an amazing lap, so we are happy about this. We are happy also about Aleix, because he was in a group. There was a crash in the front of him, and but it looks quite good, so we expect a good race. because during the yesterday we have seen a good race pace with both of them.
Okay, good luck.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Paolo Bonora. There is your front row of the grid then. Jorge Martin, Pecco Bagnaia and Maverick Vinales. It looks like it'll be a straight choice in terms of the Michelin rubber medium front soft rear tyre. Shout out there to Alex Rins in 10th place. He's looked really good all weekend. On what is a rapidly improving factory Yamaha. He was second fastest, wasn't he, Alex, at the end of play yesterday? Inside the top 10 for just the second time on a factory Yamaha on the grid. Yeah, as we suspected, everybody going medium front, soft rear tyre. Honda's woes continue with Luca Marini at the back of an extended 24-rider field. Just a bit of housekeeping. We welcome Paul Espargaro and Lorenzo Savadori as KTM and Aprilia at wild cards. So Pecco Bagnaia on the front row of the grid for the sprint. He'll be on the second row for the Grand Prix tomorrow with the 3-place grid penalty. And there, Bastianini looking sharp as well this morning. He starts in the middle of that second row. Let's get some thoughts from their boss, Davide Tardozzi, who's with Simon.
He is. Davide, both your riders looking good here, pace-wise, and Pecco looks awesome. I really would like to hear what you expect from the sprint.
Yeah, but it looks another very difficult race. I think that as in the last couple of races, I keep saying the same thing, that it will be at least 6-7 riders fighting for the podium. I really think that our two riders, Enea and Pecco, will be able to fight for the podium. But as you know, on the sprint, the first couple of laps will be very, very important. So we'll see what's going to happen at the start.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Davide Tardozzi. Yeah, Sundays, no problemo really in 2024 for Pecco Bagnaia. 3 wins in the opening 6 Grand Prix. It's the sprints where he's really been suffering of late. No sprint in 15 since the Red Bull Ring. No sprint podium in 8 since the back end of last year when we went to the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia. That 3rd place in the Sepang sprint is only sprint in the last 11. So yeah, he needs to find some form. Forza Pecco. That's the message from the army of Ducati fans. Of course, they are very familiar with Pecco Bagnaia dominating here in Mugello. The Grand Prix winner in 2022 did the double here 12 months ago. The first Italian to win back-to-back Grand Prix in Mugello since Valentino Rossi did it in 2008 and 2009. Had to be his 46th career podium at the time, didn't it, as well. There is Vinales then on the front row once again, 4th time in 7 Grand Prix for the Spaniard.
Yeah, it didn't feel as if that kind of performance was coming, looking at Aprilia's performances yesterday, but qualifying has certainly been a strong point of Top Gun, looking to try and put what was a disastrous, by his very high standards, Catalan Grand Prix weekend behind him. That description would probably also fit Enea Bastianini's Sunday in particular in Barcelona last time out, when he went rogue on the Sunday and decided not to follow the instructions to come through the long lap penalty and then through for a ride through penalty. That's all behind Enea Bastianini now. His eyes are now firmly forwards, starting from the middle of the second row.
Yeah, his best qualifying since Austin in Texas. As Valentino Rossi then on the grid. I can just see there Simon Crafar all primed. They're ready to talk to Gresini racing boss Michele Massini. 4th place goes Marc Marquez. 4 places further back is younger brother Alex. Let's get some thoughts from Michele Massini with Simon.
Michele, both the Marquez brothers looking strong here. I mean, Marc's results from 13th and 14th on the grid recently, and now he doesn't have to do that. What are you expecting?
But the expectation will be good, because with the pace we are stronger for the sprint, also for the race of tomorrow, and so we hope in a good start, and I think that we are in the game for sure.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks Michele Massini, thanks Simon. An easier game to play for Marc Marquez in this sprint going from 4th than it has been in the last couple of sprints, where he's had to do a lot of hard work early on, particularly aggressive in the early laps. 5th rows in both Le Mans and in Catalonia didn't really disturb the 8 times world champion too much, did it? Sparkling comebacks, fantastic recoveries. He's a comeback king once again in Catalonia. 5 consecutive podiums it is now for Marc Marquez, who sits 41 points behind Jorge Martin in the championship as we head into round 7.
Well, the last 2 times Pedro Costa has gone racing around this Mugello circuit in Moto2, he won by a mile. He's going to have a much tougher challenge ahead of him this afternoon and in tomorrow's Grand Prix, going from 7th place on the grid. It's a measure of how impressive Pedro Costa has been today alone. That you look at the rest of the KTMs on the grid. The next KTM, Brad Binder, down in 13th place. As mentioned, Jack Miller, a season's low of 19th, and Augusto Fernandez having more problems and difficulties in the other half of the Gas Tech 3 box, down in 20th place. But Pedro Costa at the moment looks set to fight a lone battle for the Pure Mobility Group this afternoon.
Acosta, 2 sprint podiums in the last 3. 2nd in Jerez, 3rd last time out in Catalonia, running a strong 2nd as well, wasn't he? Pressurising Martin in that Catalan Grand Prix 6 days ago. A small technical problem saw him crash out of 2nd place, still sitting 6th in the World Championship. It does look like Francesco Guidotti was telling our British TV colleagues, TNT Sports, that Brad Binder will be Pedro Acosta's teammate in 2025. There's been a lot of speculation that maybe KTM are considering slotting in Marc Marquez alongside Pedro Acosta, but Francesco Guidotti telling our British TV colleagues that they don't have a seat available for Marc Marquez. As we mentioned, he's been dominating headlines on and off the circuit, hasn't he, of late, sporting his special Italian flag helmet design here. In front of his home crowd is Fabio Di Gianantonio, on a great run on Sundays. 13 successive top 10 finishes for Di Gianantonio, as Jorge Martin looks to find his Midas touch once again in the sprint, going for yet another gold medal. 19 times in 25 sprints. The 26-year-old Spaniard has found himself with a medal of some shape or form around his neck, be it gold, silver or bronze. Of course, he'd love another gold, especially in front of Pecco Bagnaglia's home crowd, and just once again to fire another warning shot across the bows of the Ducati. I'm your man for that 2nd factory seat.
Yeah, whatever happens, Jorge Martin will lead the MotoGP World Championship when we head to Assen at the end of this month, but he wants to continue to pile on the agony for Pecco Bagnaia, who's got his own inner demons, I guess, to try and conquer here this afternoon. Of course, he conquered plenty on the Sunday in Barcelona last time out, having made that last lap sprint mistake, but there's something of a sprint jinx that Bagnaia needs to try and get over here.
So your front row of the grid here in Mugello, the Brembo Grand Prix of Italy, the Tissot sprint coming away, 11 laps, Maverick Vinales on the front row for the 4th time in the opening 7 Grand Prix, middle of the front row, seeking his first sprint victory in 10 months. He won here 12 months ago in front of his home crowd, Pecco Bagnaia. But can he gate crash the Pecco party? Can he gate crash the factory Ducati party? Jorge Martin on pole position here in Mugello.